Alrighty, Saturday. If you're watching us live or seeing the archive on Saturday or any other Saturday, then it's Saturday for you when you're watching this. Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Dan here with Nikiya Palombi, and so excited to have you. But first, Nikiya, I gotta tell everybody about you. Give them a little hint as to why you're here. Nikiya Palombi is an actress. She's a ballerina and a choreographer and a model whose work spans film and television, live theater, and more. And she started taking up drums just last year. She's a newcomer to our tribe. Welcome her. To prepare for a leading role as a jazz drummer character. Wait a minute, a girl jazz drummer. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Just kidding, folks. We've had Carrie Lynn Tarrington on, so hey, don't get on me about that. Terry was great. Cindy Blackman as well. We've had anyhow. She's playing a jazz drummer in a lead character in an indie film called, I love this title, Indigo Hour. Welcome, and how are you, Nikiya?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love learning about people who took up any instrument. When I say later in life, I'm not saying you're old, but my perspective, what I mean is you're clearly an adult.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to act like one on this show, just so you know.
Okay.
But
All
me having started playing drums shortly before I turned 7 years old, and growing up where a lot of my musician friends learned as kids, when I meet someone who starts in their even 20s, I'm like, whoa, late bloomer, whoa, that's great. And then I meet someone like my age in their 60s, I'm like, whoa, really? That's really cool. So it was indeed this leading role that led you to, like, could you have faked it for the film, but you were inspired to really like, hey, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. So the way it kind of came to be, so I have worked with the production team and the director on this film on other projects. And
Uh-huh.
so I was very fortunate. They thought of me very early and reached out and were like, Kai, our director, reached out, was like, would you be interested in playing this role? And I was like, of course. And actually, originally, the character wasn't a drummer. This
Oh,
was sort of an iteration that happened shortly after they had approached me about the film. And she texted me, she's like, hey, do you think you could play the convincingly pretend to play the drums? And I was like, yeah. Because I knew I had months to prepare. I was like, that'd be cool. I'd like to learn the drums. So I just kind of took that and ran with it.
that's so
um,
cool.
yeah. So I signed up for lessons. As soon as I could kind of get my hands on actually learning properly, I was in it, and I just really fell in love with it. It was just such a, I don't know,
That's
it was such a
great.
liberating experience for me coming from dance to learning drums.
So
It's been
that's interesting. I love this transition. Not that you're leaving dance, but dance, like drumming, is a full body immersive experience for someone who's doing it. So coming from dance into drumming, what are some of the similarities and what are some of the things you get out of the drumming part that you didn't get from dance, if anything? Like, is it more endorphins, less endorphins, different endorphins? Is there a different spiritual connection? Is it just a whole new, oh, I'm finding muscles I never knew I had because I didn't use them? Like, what is the difference between the two and how do they fulfill the same thing as well?
Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting similarities and differences. So I think similarly, obviously they're both very musical, and you really have to understand musicality, but the musicality is different. So for a lot of, especially ballet dance roles, you're really trying to kind of smooth out the beats. Occasionally you have stuff that's staccato, or you really have to hit something sharply on a beat. But a lot of ballet is about trying to make things look graceful and
Right.
smooth things.
Flow, right?
Yeah, and so that was actually really hard for me at first, was just being really sharply on the beat, and I could hear that I was like a hair off, or I was like a little slow, and I realized my body was trained to smooth things out, which does not sound good on the drums, let me tell you. And I was like, "Oh no, I might not be able to do this."
Interesting. Do you know who Terry Lynn Carrington is?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, she's so good. She'd be a great person to sort of model a bit after as a female jazz drummer, because she's truly spectacular and has really carried the old school drumming legacy forward while also infusing her playing with, more contemporary, her own style and everything. Just and there's so many male and female, of course, but Terry is someone who's just still on the scene, just killing it. She's so good.
Yeah, I actually watched some of her videos when I was like very early. I was like, okay, I gotta figure out what's the body placement. Because for me, as an actor, I was not just thinking about how do I learn to play the drums. It was, I need to be able to look like I've done this for a lot longer than I have. And I need to I need to not look weird doing this. So I
Yeah.
was thinking about just like facial expressions and really kind of finding like the body movement too, just with actually learning to play. So her and Cindy Blackman Santana, I watched a lot of her videos.
Oh, great.
So cool. I actually watched her interview on your show. So
Oh, nice,
yeah.
nice, thanks. Yeah, she's been on a couple times. She's wonderful, huge supporter. Terry was great. We had Terry on. Steve will correct me, I'm sure. I'm gonna guess it was my platter in this hard drive skips a few beats when I try to remember timelines. I think we had her on, I'll say 6 months ago.
Okay.
Usually I say 3 months ago and he chimes in, "No, it was a year ago." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But, it was wonderful to finally have her on for the first time, and Cindy's been great. So that's great that you've, like, taken that deep dive. And what kind of music do you like personally, like, aside from drums and drumming and what you might be interested in learning on the drums, just as a music fan, what has been the soundtrack of your life as you've gone through different stages? Mine's the
Um,
same, by the way. Like, I've gone through many stages. I've been listening to the same thing for over 50 years, and I too act like I'm a drummer. So that's something you and I have in common.
okay. I'm pretty eclectic when it comes to music. I think as a dancer, you have to be really open to different sounds and styles, and I think that just helps you kind of like find different places to have movement come from within your body. So a lot of times as a dancer, I talk about like center of gravity and where does the character kind of like live in their body.
Mhm.
So I think that kind of has translated to just I really go out of my way to listen to new music a lot. But I would say I think I have like a soft spot for like pop punk. And, I'm a millennial. I grew up with like pop punk bands in like the 2000s. So
Oh,
getting to
cool.
play the drums, I was like, I get to like pretend like I'm a cool drummer in my teens. So that's actually been really fun.
By the way, cool drummer is a major redundancy, just so you know.
Exactly.
If
Exactly.
you're a drummer, you're cool.
Obviously.
That's really neat. Do you look at music differently now? And do you hear music differently is really the way I should have said it. But maybe even look at it differently. If you go to a live show, I'm guessing you're watching the drummer maybe more than you ever have, if you ever have,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
and what is it that you hear that's different about music now?
Yeah, I think just the sort of what I isolate out from the music is different. So
Mhm.
I'm a classically trained singer. I grew up singing in choir and show
Oh,
choir, and I have some like music theory and music composition training. But I took piano for a few years when I was a kid. So I was always kind of listening to the melody and like harmonization and stuff like that. And my brain wasn't really trained to like focus on the percussion. And now that's like all I can hear. And I just find it so interesting. Um, that's just been such a strong shift kind of in my brain when I'm listening to music that I really enjoy.
that's great. It's I guess it's also like the difference. It's one thing to watch a movie or a TV show. It's another thing to be an actress and see how it's shot, let
Yeah.
alone a peek into the post-production. I read briefly an article recently, who I also can't remember who this was, but they said, "I had no idea that was the movie we were making," because the way they shot it so out of sequence and stuff, and then when they went to the premiere, it was like, "Whoa, this had no we had no" they were happy with it, but they had no idea like none of them, I think, knew how it was going to end either. They somehow were able to hide that from even the people in the roles because of the way they shot it so far out of sequence. It led them to believe one thing. They all went to the premiere, were like, whoa, we're literally seeing this movie for the first time in any way. So I imagine it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. That's such I think a tough thing as an actor. You just have to have so much trust in your director and, the producing team and their vision, because you really, even if you have the whole script, even if you have the storyboards, the final product is so different from it. It's hard to really put it into words until you see it. So you really
Yeah.
just have to trust that you can kind of let go, be the character, and the end version is going to be something that's super cool. Yeah.
That's great. Tell us about Indigo Hour, the movie in which you are portraying a jazz drummer. Where was the name come about without spoiling the movie? And can you tell us anything about the plot
Yeah.
and your
So,
role?
yeah. So I was brought on, again, by the producers, Nikki and Alex from Eternals and Kai from Kai Media. I was brought on, I'd say like a year and a half ago now. This has been in pre-production, as indie films often are, for quite a while. So we have a feature film script, which we have not shot yet, but I was very fortunate to get the opportunity to act in a short film that takes place in the same universe as Indigo Hour. So we now have
Oh,
a short film called Junior Reporter, which has a lot of the same core characters. So we actually shot that last week. I was on set, which was super cool. So we got to actually shoot
oh,
some of the first drumming scenes. That was my first time actually playing in front of basically anyone other than my husband, my family, and my incredible drum instructor, who's just been like, I totally lucked out finding him.
give a shout out. Who is it?
Rob Farrell. So if you're in Orange
Oh,
County, Rob Farrell Drum
awesome.
Studio, I really got lucky finding him. I needed an instructor who could teach me traditional grip. And Rob was just so perfect because he's a huge horror movie fan and his wife is an actress. And so he not only is a just lovely teacher, but really understood what I needed to prepare for and tailored it, and was like also in lessons giving me notes about like how to kind of think about the scene and just find freedom within the playing, and helped me kind of build the confidence to not only learn the drums, but also have the confidence I needed on set to play like a believable drummer who's been playing for way longer than I actually have.
That's awesome. And are you playing jazz in the movie?
Yeah, so I do play traditional grip. Yeah, the music has the plan for it has sort of evolved. I haven't actually heard the music yet for
Oh,
the movie. So this was also just something that's super cool. First time I've ever gotten to do this. So Orally, our music composer, was actually on set the day that we shot the drumming scenes, and she's going to compose the full music around what I was playing on set. So it'll sync
wow.
up, which is so cool. Like, what a gift
Yeah.
to get to do that. So I haven't heard the music yet, but yeah, it's going to be definitely some jazz, potentially some like hip hop vibes, I think, but I haven't heard it yet. I don't know. I don't think it's been created yet. So I'll kind of find out together.
That's great. Any idea whatsoever when it might be done and where or how it will be distributed even?
Yeah, I don't know. So this is kind of the thing with indie film is you just take it step by step. It's definitely a passion project. I think anyone who has ever worked on an indie film knows that it's just a lot of passion and hard work and trust, and it's definitely a team sport.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's kind of the beauty of indie film. But yeah, because of that, it's really hard to say exactly where it will wind up. But you can follow the film on Instagram. I think that's probably where the most like up to date
Oh,
information is. It's at Indigo Hour Film on
oh,
Instagram,
great.
and we do have an IMDb page both for Indigo Hour, and then I have one as well. But yeah, I believe we're going to be using the short film as sort of a proof of concept to then go shoot the full feature.
Very cool. And tell us a little bit, well, again, without spoiling, where does the name come from?
Yeah, so the name, that's a good question for Kai. So Indigo Hour, I don't know exactly where the original idea came from, but Indigo Hour is a neo-noir thriller. And my character, Rain Robinson, starts seeing these visions, and they tend to happen at Indigo Hour. So early morning,
Mm.
kind of a very noir vibe. And she starts seeing this ghost. She gets visions, and she kind of has premonitions about when these attacks are going to happen. So there's a serial attacker that
Whoa.
she's somehow getting these visions about, and that's where the title comes from.
Very interesting. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Nice. So, what else do you have going on? And do you see yourself expanding your musical journey beyond the film?
Yeah, so I'm working on a few film projects right now, a couple of different things. I actually do a lot of creature acting. So
Oh,
Indigo Hour was a nice kind of break from being in full creature makeup, having prosthetics on and stuff on set.
oh, wow.
Yeah, and I definitely am going to continue playing the drums. I really, really enjoy it. And actually at my last lesson with Rob, I was like, all right, so should I play match grip? And so we had a whole conversation about if I'm going to switch to match grip or if we're going to stick with traditional grip. I haven't decided yet. But yeah.
Interesting. Cool. And Steve did chime in and on when the timeline was that we had Terry on. He says almost last year, it was July last year. So, yeah, almost a year ago. And hey, Patricia May Amison is chiming in from Florida. And John P. Salloway is chiming in from Nashville, Tennessee, both watching live on Facebook. Very cool. Yeah, folks, tell us where you're watching from. Um, cool. Uh, do you think you might join a band or form a band or something? And after all, you've got music composition training in your background. Maybe that'll all just kind of come to the top again and flow right out of you. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to at some point. That would be super cool. I did have a couple of friends who are very accomplished musicians reach out to me. They were like, "Yeah, we should jam sometime." And I was like,
That's
"Okay, yeah, let's do that." I don't know if I'm good enough for that yet, but sure.
well, I have a clip. Do you mind if I show the I'm guessing it's okay to show the clip because you sent it in
Yeah,
to Steve.
totally.
So this is Nikiya playing, and she's getting her drummer face going. She's getting her physiology going. She's been playing less than a year. How
Yeah.
long have you been playing, roughly?
So it's been about a year. It's been about a year.
Okay, been about a year. Check this out, folks. A beginner drummer right here on our show. An adult, not old, but a adult beginner drummer, which is really cool. Like I said, I just love when people start something new as an adult. It's great, especially drumming. Here you go. Isn't drumming just fun to just be moving around, hitting stuff?
It really is.
I just love that. That's great. You got a great start going. I can't wait to see the jazz stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. The jazz stuff is it's hard. It's so much harder.
Jazz is not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jazz is so there's so much technicality to jazz playing, yet at the same time, as I'm sure you're learning or have learned, is that it can be so freeform and just just let's go, count it out and see what happens kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You know? So that's great. It's influenced so much music outside of its own genre, and of course, it is only America's it's the only art form the United States of America can claim its own, which is really bizarre. Like,
Yeah.
if peanut butter and jelly was an art form, I don't even think we can claim that. But jazz, we own jazz. Isn't that fascinating? I always found that weird.
It is. Yeah. I don't think I knew that. I had never like thought about that, but yeah, that's very
Yeah.
interesting.
And April was National Jazz Month. So every April we play even more jazz than we normally do on the show, and have jazz related to our music trivia game shows and stuff like that.
Oh, that's super cool.
So what have you been in, Nikiya, that people can watch for and try and figure out with prosthetics on playing a creature? Like, I wonder if that's her.
So I've worked on a lot of indie films. I've spent a lot of time working with like horror film projects and things like that. There's definitely some stuff on Amazon and Tubi. I think I've been in some of the movies that are on there. They all kind of live in different places and move around. But I was also, I'm trying to think of things that are like readily available. I was on an episode of Conan. I was Lady Conan for a episode they did where they were at San Diego Comic-Con. So Conan did like it was just a bit where he had like different Conan dolls, and I played Lady Conan.
Oh, interesting.
Fun. Yeah.
Cool. And I was gonna say something. I wasn't sure if I wanted to, but since Tim with Drum Brag watching live on YouTube in France, bonjour, comment allez-vous, Tim? How are you? Tim says, and he wanted to see you play, and I didn't even see that before I played the video. But he said you might want to try pulling your hi-hat stand a little closer, so you're not reaching as far with your left foot.
Interesting.
However, also beware, every drummer that ever sees you play anything will always tell you to do something a little different than you are. But usually in the spirit of love and wanting to be helpful. But this is another topic in drumming that's always fascinated me, and that I always kind of like bragging about a little bit. And that is, anyone can pick up any saxophone, and the valves are all going to be in the same place. The reed is in the same place. Anyone can pick up any violin. The strings are going to be in the same place. You play it basically in the same spot with a bow. Sit at a piano, you know where the keys are. Any piano, any keyboard. We can go on and on and on with any other instrument, a Kyoto, a sitar, an auto harp, anything. But drums, you take 5 drummers that each have a 5-piece kit with the same size drums, a ride cymbal, 2 crashes, and a hi-hat. None of them are going to set it up exactly the same as far as height, distance, angle, and all those things. And it's something that we have that flexibility to, hopefully, and this is not always the case. We do a show once a month with a physical therapist who caters only to the music industry called Drumming Injury Talk. I'll get to that in a minute, but my point is that we have the flexibility to do that, but it's not always for the right reasons. The best reasons to do that is to fit our physiology. 3 people could be 6 feet tall, but their arms and legs are different lengths. Maybe their torso is shorter or taller, so the seat at the same level won't put them the same. There's all these differences that come with our bodies, that it enables us to set up. When you sit at a piano, you're stuck with where the keys are. That's just how it is. Guitar, you could adjust where it is, the angle, the action of the strings, but the strings are still where they're going to be, right? Mm-hmm. I've always liked that we can, I have a few drum sets. I have 2 that are always set up, and they're completely different. One is a big progressive kit with a lot of drums, tons of cymbals. The other one's a small 4-piece jazz kit, but that 4-piece jazz kit is not set up. Rather, those 4 pieces in my big kit are not set up anywhere near the same way those 4 pieces are set up. They're set up to go with the rest of that kit and the way I play that kind of music. So it's an interesting thing. So beware that people will always have advice and have the freedom to try stuff out and go, that didn't quite work for me. But what Tim said is a good piece of advice, to bring that in just a little closer, so you could not have to lean to one side and your body's shaped like that. So that's one of the things we talk about on Drumming Injury Talk, is not just repetitive motion injuries, which could also come from playing stringed instruments, bowed instruments, keyboards, certainly from drumming, but also things having to do with posture, with reach. Not that you have to set up like a soldier to play drums, but There's all these different things that could affect your hip joints, your sciatica, your neck, your arches, nerve pain, carpal tunnel. I know two very famous drummers who happen to be brothers that don't have the same last name, yet they're spelled the same way, pronounced differently. I won't say who Carmine and Vinny are, but they've both had shoulder replacements because they set up for the big theatrical part of drumming with China cymbals way up here. And after 50, 60 years of doing that, our bodies are moving parts just like
Yeah.
they're mechanical thing that can wear down. So experiment with different setups and find something that literally feels comfortable for you. And look at how whether drummers are set up, but keep in mind body type might be just completely different than yours.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm actually very aware that like my body type affects the way I move from being a dancer again. Like you actually as a ballet dancer in particular, I think you become very aware of like your torso to leg ratio, because how high you can lift your leg and things like that it looks different on someone with a longer or shorter torso. So I have
Right.
a longer torso, which for ballet I think makes things harder. So that was actually something when I was setting up my kit, I did try kind of moving stuff around. And it's interesting you bring up the hi-hat, because I have moved it several times as I've been playing and like kind of trying to find the right spot. And one of the tough things for me, I think, was just my feet naturally turn out. So when I sit, my feet they don't naturally just point forward. I've kind of got this like weird turnout posture. So
Uh-huh.
I think it just made everything kind of move farther apart. So maybe that's part of it. I'll play around with that.
It could be. I don't think anybody's feet, when they sit down, automatically face exactly forward, but you point out a really good rule of thumb to start with, and that is however you naturally sit, the right foot, that's where you put your bass pedal, left foot. And some drummers, and I'm one of them now, and it's been for about the last 10 years or so, maybe 12. My big kit, I don't set it up with the bass drum facing forward. I sit forward and my legs are naturally, I don't know if people can see. Yeah, they're like this. And my bass drum faces that way in the natural trajectory of my leg, and my hi-hat faces that way, and I'm still facing forward, but my bass drum is not facing forward like a traditional drum set. My jazz kit is, for some reason, I just set that up normal or typical. Now, when you do set up with your sit like that, but you have your bass drum facing forward, you can still be sitting like that, but now your body's turned to face forward. And I sat with my body twisted for 45 years before 10 years ago I went like that. I'm kind of sitting the same way, but less turning, because now I'd be facing away from the front of the stage if I faced how I naturally sat and placed my feet. Now I just turned everything probably 15, 20 degrees, and it's more comfortable. So now I'm not twisting to face forward.
Huh.
So there's all sorts of weird, and there's no right or wrong. Don't worry about people saying, "Hey, you're not holding your sticks right." Like if I hear one more, it's like, come on, Ray Olivier, great friend of mine. A lot of people know him. Great drummer, plays amazingly well. Most of his digits got burned off when he was 8 years old. He got burned from the waist up, and no one's gonna tell him, "Hey, you're holding the stick wrong." Or like me, I have a pinky. My pinky sticks out sometimes. It's not on the stick, and I see comes out like, "So your pinky." It's like, yeah. So would you know that if you weren't looking? Like, do you know how someone's holding the sticks when you listen to a record? It's like, drummers are very supportive, usually the first one to a gig, last one to leave. They'll watch the supporting act, they'll watch the band after them, all these different things. They'll share, like, "Hey, what is that? Oh, come here, let me show you. I'll show you how I'm doing that." Or, "Yeah, check out this drum." But at the same time, you got those trolls that live under the bridge that are on social media, and they'll go after you for the stupidest things.
Yeah.
It's weird. But I think I set up differently even now that I'm bald and no longer have hair. I think I set up differently when I had hair. Just kidding.
Really? Was
So
there
let me
hairography you were doing that impacted?
right, exactly. How tall are you, if you don't mind me asking? I'm curious. It's hard to tell watching the video.
Yeah, I'm 5'7".
Okay, so I'm like maybe half an inch taller than you, maybe.
Okay.
Used to be 5'8" or so, 5'10" with hair, then 5'8", then I had kids, now I'm 5'7" and shrinking. Yeah. So yeah, your femur I think is most comfortable about like that. I see some drummers, if this is their butt, their knee is actually a little higher.
Hmm.
And to me, I don't know how they get power out of their feet. They
Yeah.
say they do. Some real big famous drummers, Nico McBrain, a favorite, good friend. Tommy Aldridge, a favorite, friend of the show. They sit like that, and I've never been able to get my head around it. It looks so uncomfortable to me. Alan White, the late great Alan White of Yes, used to sit, and I sat like he did for years and years and years and years because he was such a big influence. He sat high, and his femur from hip to knee was about like that. Now I sit about like that. I'm more kind of in the kit. Todd Zuckerman of Styx, his snare drum is like right under his chin. No, it's not quite like that, but it's pretty high, and it looks like he's sitting in a hole. So I asked him on the show one time. I said, Todd, what is with the way your snare is? And he plays traditional grip, but he plays with sticks, or he plays the band sticks, or he plays
Yeah.
rock. But he says, when I have this motion, when my forearm is perpendicular with the floor, that way the drum is right there. I'm not reaching for it. I'm sitting low enough and the drum's high enough. So I adjusted slightly to that. I brought my drum up an inch. I sat an inch lower, and I play match grip most of the time. And I got so used to it. I was like, yeah, this feels really good actually. And sometimes that'll change it, cause a chain reaction. Okay, now I gotta adjust this an inch. I gotta tilt that slightly. It's like, it's weird. I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but the more you play, the more you get into your gear, the more like, I'm gonna move that. And someone's like, I thought you said you're gonna move it. Yeah, I just moved a quarter inch. It's like every little bit makes a difference. It's a weird idiosyncrasy, I think, amongst most drummers. It's interesting.
Yeah. I did experience that actually on set, and we had a very tight window to shoot the drum scenes. We shot
Oh,
in a practice studio.
no
So when I
pressure.
came
Just get it right.
yeah, no pressure. I came in, there was like the snare was not even on the set. It had been like moved over somewhere else. I was like, I guess somebody brought in their own snare last time they were in that practice studio. Like one of the toms was not connected. It was spun like super weirdly. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to set this up. It's like I'm like a real drummer now. I have like opinions about this. So I did. I
I
adjusted everything. I was really proud of myself. That was actually something I had not even thought of when I was prepping. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to come in, and for some reason I
sit
thought
at the drums.
it set up exactly like my one at home, which
Yeah.
obviously not.
You know, I don't play in a band anymore. And people who don't know me, but they know my wife, they say, then they find out what I do. They say, oh, does he play in a band? Does he play with people? She says, no, he just plays with himself. But anyway, once in a while, I do get asked to play, and I'm playing on the 20th somewhere up in the middle of nowhere where we live. We live in the mountains east of Phoenix. And there's this gentleman I play with a few times a year who has a different lineup every time he puts his thing together, and it's very free form. There's a little structure to it, but it's mostly free form, kind of acid jazz, psychedelic mixed anything with like what sometimes we have a violin player, flute player. You just never know. But my point is, he called, he said, hey, can you play on the 20th? I said, hey, can I use the house kit? There's a house kit that's not a great kit, but if you know how to tune drums and know how to play, you can make any kit sound good. And because I just don't schlep my stuff anymore, it's just way too much work. So what I do, and it's fun to do for his music, is just a 4-piece kit. And then I might bring like one of my darbukas back here from the Arab countries. I just love that music. I might bring one of those. I got a tongue drum. I brought my gong one time, a 22-inch gong. So I'll bring like my cymbals and my pedal and stuff, and that's it. And I don't have to set up like a whole set of drums. I just don't do that. And I'm spoiled. I had someone that set it up for 23 years when I was growing up. So it's not like I didn't help, folks. I don't throw any shade like I'm, overworking somebody. Although we did have a heart attack a couple weeks ago. I don't think I had anything to do with that though, and he's okay. Hey, Mike. But another thing, do you wear jewelry of any kind when you play on your hands or wrists?
No. Sometimes I do wear my watch, my like Apple Watch, because
Okay.
actually a lot of times I'll play with music in headphones, and the Apple Watch
Okay.
is really nice for like resetting the music, stuff like
Yeah.
that, adjusting.
Okay.
But
Good.
that's it.
Good, because and that would be okay. I ask because I stopped wearing my wedding ring or other rings because sometimes my hands swell up. And one time I almost got hurt really badly and it really scared me, like was
Okay.
going to lose a finger hurt. So I never play with jewelry on anymore. And sometimes I see guys, and I think ladies sometimes play with big watches on. I'm like, how do you play with like you got an extra pound on one wrist? Like, isn't that out of to me? It's just weird, and I don't want to break any jewelry either. I
Yeah.
lose a stone or something. You know,
I think that would throw me off. Yeah.
yeah, like put a sand weight on your wrist just to see what it'd be like. And I'm going to go back to comments for a moment. Let's see. Scott Pistol Crockett says that's oh, it moved. Let me scroll back up. Oh, where am I? Hold on. Where did it go? Bear with me. Oh, that's why I hate playing other drummers' kits. I never feel comfortable behind it. If they'll let you move stuff around, that's really cool. And I don't know why they don't. I mean, I wouldn't mind someone doing that, even if I know most people are against what I'm saying, Nikiya, but even if I was going to play the next song, like you can move a few things if you need to. Like how hard would it be for me to just put a couple things back, while the
Yeah.
singer is just bantering about nothing anyways, you know. Let's read a couple more comments. Drum Brag also says, I was playing a kit at a festival. I set it all up. Fine. Not my kit, but it worked. When I came to play, I sat down and someone had obviously taken the seat and wound it right down all the way to the bottom, I guess. He was counted. And that was it. I tried to adjust between songs, but I simply couldn't. How funny. Uh, my watch and my wedding. What? Oh, watch and wedding ring. Got it. Okay, got it. And in that, and that was it. I tried to. Okay, that was the other part of Tim's message. That's hilarious. Funny stuff. So, what's next for you? What before I ask my last and the most important question of the interview? What's next for you, and how can people follow you and stay up to date with what you're doing?
Yeah, so I have a few projects in the works. Nothing that I can like tell anybody about yet, but I would
Okay.
say follow me on Instagram. I have a website, nikiya.info, that
Okay.
I keep updates and stuff on there. Like I said, I have a couple of film projects in the works. We're really excited about those. Actually, a project I worked on is going to be premiering this month in LA. I played a dancer. I was very lucky to get to work with a friend of mine, Brandon Busick, on his new feature film. It's called Something Casual. Uh,
Nice.
that's going to be premiering in LA. Really incredible film. I was a dancer in the like main character's dance company. So highly
Great.
recommend checking that out too.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. And before I do ask you the most important question, so far, other than me, who's your favorite drummer?
Oh, that's a tough question. I
I
mean, it's got to
know
be
it is.
Travis Barker. I mean, I grew up like
Oh,
I saw
nice.
Blink
Okay.
182 live many times. Big
Great.
fan, and
Are you going to emulate his tats?
oh my gosh, my character was supposed to. So in the feature, the original script, my character had lots of tattoos. I was going to have fake tattoos put on. We didn't have enough time to do it for the short, and that was the thing I was most bummed about. I was so excited to like have a bunch of tattoos for a short period of
Let's
time.
just go. We'll go do it together. Let's just
Okay.
go. I'll get a crack in my head with a spider coming out. I'll do the whole neck thing. Steven's like, what? We're making different Thanksgiving plans this year. So here's the most important question of the day.
Okay.
This is called the Nikiya Palombi Fun Fact segment.
Uh-oh.
When you're not doing the two or three main things you do in the arts, which is dance, acting, and now drumming, when you're away from your main, what really lights you up and is your thing in the arts, what do you do outside of the arts for fun or to chill or for excitement or that has nothing to do with those three things?
I I think my thing is kind of like looking for new things to try. I really hop around a lot. So I always have some weird new thing that I'm trying. It was drums for a while. Before that it was surfing. But the thing that is consistent is spending time with my husband and my 2 dogs. Just like going on hikes, spending time outside with them. That's what keeps me grounded.
Oh, that's great. And you said 2 dogs?
Yeah, 2 dogs, two big dogs. They're both
What
pit
kind
bull
are they? What
mixes.
kind are they? We have 3 dogs and 2 cats.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have a pit bull mix Mocha who's brown and white, and she's like 7 years old. And then we have a puppy who we actually were foster. It was a foster fail. He's like a lab cane corso mix. He's like 65 pounds, just lovable ball of energy. His name's
Oh, that's great.
Wally.
All 5 of our furries are rescues, and the 3 dogs are only 2, 3, and 4. And we got them each at 3 months old, 9 months apart. The youngest one is half pit bull and half border collie. She's the most affectionate animal I've ever been around. And usually she's across my feet under my desk, but we took them to the kennel this morning because we're leaving to go down to Tucson to see Infinity Rush. We're going to see Aaron Olson, who also plays with Asia, featuring John Payne. He won one of our drum challenge contests. So we got to know each other, met him at the Las Vegas Drum Show in person. And he invited my wife and I to go. Tucson's like exactly 2 hours south of us in a straight line. So we're going to go spend the night, watch them. They're great. But then the other one is a Boxer Shepherd Husky mix. She's a brindle. Those 2 are both 70 pounds. And then the 40-something pounder who thinks he's 88 pounds. The older one, who's 3, Sasha, is half Australian cattle dog and half husky, and he's the only male in the house other than me. And lots of fun. It's a whole different vibe when you have dogs and or cats in the house. So I totally get being able to spend that kind of time together, and just it's all different things.
Yeah.
Great. Well, wonderful. Wonderful having you on and getting to learn how you became a drummer as an adult just starting out. And we'll have to stay in touch and follow that and have you on maybe after more filming gets done. Maybe there'll be some dailies you could share with us or something if they'll let you. Or, when the finished product is out, let's definitely get together again. We'll help promote that, have you on, and follow your drumming journey.
Awesome. Thank you. I would love to come back on.
Awesome. Thanks. Stay on the line with me after we disconnect from the audience. And audience, thank you so much for following what we do here on Drum Talk TV. Lots of other fun stuff coming up, including on the 24th, our next music-themed game show, celebrating on that show again. This month, the theme is 50 years of awesome music of many genres that came out in 1975. And we're doing our Majority Rules themed version of the game. If you're not familiar with that, folks, go to www.drumtalktvbrilliance.com. You could sign up with a free account. We'll still love you and welcome you and experience all kinds of great stuff. We're booking all sorts of wonderful A-list artists for our fan Q&A sessions. And you never know what you're going to see in our feed or the timeline on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo, and X, and now TikTok. And then Nikiya Palombi, thank you so much for coming on board. And folks, we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.